I still remember that moment like it just happened yesterday. The cold paper trembling in my hands, the ink smudged a little where my tears fell before I even realized I was crying. It was supposed to be a routine checkup. Nothing more, nothing less. But that note, that one tiny piece of paper changed my entire life. It said, "Don't go home. Run." Hi, my name's Tasha Brown. I'm 36 years old, born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee. Folks who know me will tell you I'm the kind of woman who believes in giving second chances, sometimes even third ones. Maybe that's why I stayed in a house that had stopped feeling like home long before I got that note. If you're listening to this, please don't go anywhere. Go ahead, like, subscribe, and share this story, because what I found out that night still makes my blood run cold. And I want you to hear every word of it, straight from me. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. That morning, I woke up with the same dull headache I'd been fighting for months. My husband, Derek, had already left for work, or at least, that's what he told me. The house was quiet, too quiet. I could hear the old wall clock ticking louder than my own heartbeat. I'd been feeling strange for weeks. Dizzy. Tired. Forgetful. I'd catch myself standing in the kitchen, not remembering why I walked in there. At first, I blamed it on stress. But when I started blacking out, I knew I had to see someone. The clinic wasn't fancy, just one of those small, local places tucked between a laundromat and a corner store. I remember thinking how calm everything felt inside, almost too calm. The receptionist smiled when she saw me. "You're here for your 10 o'clock, right?" I nodded, filling out the forms, my hands trembling a little. Something inside me felt off. Like I wasn't supposed to be there, but I didn't know why. When the nurse called my name, I followed her down that long white hallway. I could smell disinfectant, and the hum of those fluorescent lights made my head ache even more. Dr. Miller walked in a few minutes later. He was new, I hadn't seen him before. Middle-aged, kind eyes, but there was something heavy in his expression I couldn't read. "Mrs. Brown," he started, glancing at my chart. "You've been experiencing fatigue, dizziness, and confusion, correct?" I nodded. "Yes, and lately it's been worse. I can't even stay awake through the day." He hummed softly, jotting something down. "And your husband, he's the one who manages your medication, right?" That question hit me weird. I frowned. Yes. Derek usually reminds me when to take it." "Why?" He didn't answer right away. He just stared at me for a few seconds, too long, like he was trying to decide whether to say something or not. Then, suddenly, he said, "Excuse me for a moment," and stepped out of the room. I sat there, staring at the wall clock again. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. When he came back, he was holding a clipboard, and something folded underneath it. He smiled, but it wasn't the same smile he'd worn earlier. "Mrs. Brown," he said softly, "your tests are still being processed, but I just need you to do something for me. Right now." He slipped the note across the table. "Don't open it until you leave this office. Just promise me you'll read it before you go home." I blinked, confused. "What do you mean? Is there something wrong with me?" He hesitated. His hand shook slightly as he pushed his glasses up. "Please. Just read it once you're outside." That was the moment everything inside me twisted. My stomach dropped. Something in his tone, low, almost trembling, made me realize this wasn't about some test result. This was about something else. When I stepped out of the clinic, the sun hit my face, but I felt cold. I walked to my car, clutching that folded piece of paper like it was my last lifeline. For a second, I thought about not opening it. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe this was all just a mistake. But then I unfolded it. And my whole world went silent. "Don't go home. Run." That was all it said. No explanation. No signature. Just those words written in blue ink, shaky, rushed, like whoever wrote it didn't have much time. I remember looking around the parking lot, half expecting someone to jump out and tell me it was some kind of cruel joke. But no one did. Instead, the wind picked up, blowing the note out of my hands. I chased it, catching it just before it flew under a car. My heart was racing so hard I could hear it in my ears. Why would a doctor tell me not to go home? What could possibly be waiting for me there? I pulled out my phone, staring at Derek's name on the screen. My thumb hovered over the call button, but something stopped me. That same gut feeling. The one I'd ignored for months. I couldn't explain it, but I knew, whatever truth was waiting for me that night, I wasn't ready for it. So I drove. Not home. Not anywhere near it. Just away. And as I sat parked in some random grocery lot, shaking, I realized. Maybe that note wasn't a warning. Maybe it was a lifeline. Because deep down, I already knew something was wrong inside that house. I just never wanted to believe it. I sat in my car for what felt like hours. The sun had dipped low, the sky turning that tired gray before dusk. I couldn't move. Couldn't think. That note kept replaying in my mind like a broken record. Don't go home. Run. But run where? From what? From who? I glanced at my phone again. Missed calls from Derek. 2. Then 3. My hands were shaking too bad to answer. I kept telling myself, Tasha, calm down. Maybe it's a mistake. Maybe the doctor mixed up patients. But deep down, I knew. I'd been ignoring the signs for months. The vitamins Derek insisted I take every night. The way he watched me swallow them, eyes locked, like he was making sure. The food that started tasting off. Metallic. Bitter sometimes. And those nights when I'd wake up drenched in sweat, dizzy, confused. No. This wasn't a mistake. I gripped the steering wheel, trying to steady my breathing. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. Then my phone buzzed again. This time it was Mama. I answered fast, my voice barely steady. Mama. Baby, you okay? She asked. Her voice sounded off, tight, like she'd been crying. Derek called me. Said you left your appointment all upset. What happened? I froze. How did he know that fast? Mama, I whispered, did he tell you to call me? She hesitated. Well, he sounded worried. Tasha. Said you'd been acting strange lately. Said you've been forgetful. You didn't tell me you wasn't feeling right, baby. My throat tightened. That same old manipulation, Derek twisting the truth, making me look unstable. Mama, listen to me, I said, my voice shaking. The doctor gave me a note. He said not to go home. What? I don't know what's going on, but something's wrong. I can feel it. There was silence. Just her breathing on the other end. Then she said softly, Tasha, you need to stop overthinking things. Derek loves you, baby. You've been married for 12 years. Maybe you're just stressed out. I felt my stomach turn. That tone. That disbelief. Nobody ever believed me when it came to Derek. Mama, I whispered, tears starting to burn my eyes, please, just don't call him. Promise me that. She sighed. I won't, baby. Just, get yourself some rest, okay? Maybe stay with me tonight if you're scared. But something in her voice didn't sit right. It felt rehearsed, like she was reading from a script. I hung up, tossed the phone on the passenger seat, and cried, quietly, so no one in that empty parking lot would hear me. That's when I heard the buzz again. A new message. From an unknown number. My breath caught as I opened it. Mrs. Brown, this is Dr. Miller. I can't talk on the phone. Please don't go home. Don't tell anyone about the note. Meet me at the gas station on Oak Street in 30 minutes. My whole body went cold. I didn't even think twice. I turned the key and drove. The roads blurred past me. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight they ached. Every red light felt like a threat. Every car behind me made me glance in the mirror. By the time I reached the gas station, it was dark. There was only one other car parked in the back corner, a white sedan. Dr. Miller stepped out, looking around before walking toward me. Tasha, he said quickly, his voice low, urgent. I didn't want to scare you earlier, but I had to warn you. What's happening? I demanded, stepping closer. Why can't I go home? He looked around again before pulling out a small folder. I ran some of your tests twice because something didn't make sense. You've got traces of heavy metals in your blood, lead, arsenic, and lithium levels far above normal. I blinked, confused. What? How? What does that even mean? It means someone's been slowly poisoning you. My knees buckled. I grabbed the edge of the car to stay upright. No, I whispered. That's not possible. You're saying. He cut me off, shaking his head. Mrs. Brown, I don't know who has access to your food or medicine, but these toxins don't just appear. They're being administered over time. And it's getting worse. If you go home, you might not wake up tomorrow. I felt the air leave my lungs. My mind went blank. Poison. My husband. The pills. The food. The last few months flashed in my head like pieces of a nightmare. The way he always cooked my meals. The way he'd smile if I said I wasn't hungry, and insist anyway. The nights I woke up disoriented, tasting metal in my mouth. It all made sense now. I covered my mouth, tears spilling out. Oh my God. Dr. Miller placed a hand on my shoulder. Listen, I've already contacted a friend of mine with the police department. He's discreet. He can help you. But you can't go back there, not even to grab clothes. Do you understand? I nodded slowly, still trembling. Where do I go? I asked. He exhaled, looking both ways. Go somewhere safe tonight. Somewhere he wouldn't look. A hotel, maybe. And tomorrow, I'll call you with instructions. I tried to thank him, but my words came out broken. Why are you helping me? He looked at me for a long moment. Because. I've seen this before. And the last woman didn't make it out in time. Those words hit harder than any slap. He handed me a prepaid phone, already turned on. Use this if you need to reach me. Don't use your own phone. He's tracking it. I nodded again, every nerve in my body shaking. Then he got back in his car and drove off, taillights disappearing into the night. I stood there, clutching that phone like it was the only thing tethering me to life. The gas station attendant stared as I walked inside. You okay, he asked. I nodded quickly. Yeah, just, long day. But inside, I was breaking apart. I bought a cheap hoodie, a bottle of water, and a pack of crackers, just to keep my hands busy. When I walked out, I looked up at the dark sky and whispered, God, what did I do to deserve this? I didn't have an answer. All I had was the truth I wasn't ready to face, and the fear that, no matter how far I ran, Derek would find me. Because if he'd been poisoning me all this time, he wasn't going to stop until I was gone. And that night was just the beginning. I didn't sleep that night. Not in that cheap motel room with the flickering light and paper-thin walls. Every time a car passed by outside, I jumped. Every time the pipes creaked, I reached for that prepaid phone the doctor gave me. I kept replaying his words in my mind. Someone's been poisoning you. By morning, my eyes were swollen from crying. My head felt heavy, but I couldn't stay there. I needed answers. So I packed my things and drove to Mama's house. She opened the door in her robe, holding a cup of coffee. Baby, what on earth? You look like you ain't slept a wink. I stepped inside, scanning the room, half expecting Derek to walk out from somewhere. Mama, I said quietly, has Derek been here? She frowned. No, but he's been calling. Said you were having some kind of breakdown. What's going on, Tasha? I wanted to tell her everything, the poisoning, the doctor, the note, but something stopped me. Something about the way she looked at me. Cautious, not motherly. Like she was trying to figure out if she should believe me or not. I just shook my head. I just needed to be somewhere safe for a bit. She sighed, setting her coffee down. You know you can stay here, baby. You don't need to be running around like this. But she wouldn't look me in the eyes when she said it. I went upstairs to the guest room, closed the door, and leaned against it. Her house smelled the same, lavender and old wood Polish, but somehow it didn't feel like home. When I finally dozed off, it was almost noon. The next few days passed like a blur. Mama tiptoed around me, like she didn't know how to talk to me anymore. And Derek? He didn't stop calling. Every few hours, my regular phone buzzed with a message. Baby, Please come home. We can fix this. I'm worried about you. You're scaring me, Tasha. Just answer. He sounded desperate, loving even, but every word felt like a trap. By the third day, I stopped answering entirely. That's when the messages changed. I know where you are. You shouldn't have left. We need to talk. Now. I threw the phone across the bed and backed away from it like it might explode. That night, I heard Mama downstairs talking softly on the phone. Her voice was low, but I caught fragments. She's not herself. Yes, she's here. No, she doesn't suspect. My stomach dropped. She was talking to him. I tiptoed halfway down the stairs, heart pounding in my chest. Mama, I whispered. She turned fast, eyes wide. Lord, you scared me. Who were you talking to? She hesitated. Nobody. Just your aunt. Which one? She froze. Just long enough for me to know she was lying. Mama, I said, tears in my eyes, why are you doing this? I'm your daughter. Her expression softened for a second. Baby. Derek came by yesterday. He's been worried sick. Said you've been seeing things, hearing things. He asked me to help you. I laughed, a bitter, broken sound. He's poisoning me, Mama. The doctor said there's arsenic in my blood. Her eyes widened, then she shook her head, whispering, Lord help us. Then louder, Tasha, listen to yourself. You sound crazy. And that was it. That one sentence shattered me. Because that's exactly what Derek always said. I turned, ran upstairs, and slammed the door. I couldn't breathe. They were working together. My own mother. My husband. The two people I trusted most. That night, I couldn't sleep. Again. I sat on the edge of the bed, watching the shadows stretch across the floor, feeling that creeping dread crawl up my spine. Then I heard it. A soft creak in the hallway. Footsteps. I froze. Slow, careful steps, coming closer to my door. I grabbed the prepaid phone and pressed record, just in case. The knob turned slightly, just enough to make my blood run cold. Then I heard a whisper. She's asleep. It was Derek's voice. My whole body tensed. I stood up, barely breathing, pressing myself against the wall. Mama's voice followed, hushed but sharp. She's resting. Don't wake her. You shouldn't have come. Derek's tone shifted, dark and calm. I had to make sure she's okay. She's been saying things, seeing things. We can't let her hurt herself. My eyes filled with tears. Hurt herself. That was the story they were building. If anything happened to me now, they'd say it was suicide. I waited until the hallway went silent again. Then I packed my bag, quietly, shaking, and slipped out the back door barefoot. The air was cold, biting. But freedom never felt so terrifying. I ran until I reached the end of the street, panting, crying, not even sure where I was going. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it echo in my ears. That's when I saw headlights behind me. A car slowed down, creeping closer. I ducked behind a tree, clutching my bag. It was Mama's car. They were looking for me. The tires rolled slowly past, the glow of the headlights fading into the distance. I waited until they were gone, then pulled out the prepaid phone and called Dr. Miller. He picked up instantly. Tasha. It's me, I whispered. He's here. He found me. Where are you? At my mother's, but I left. They're both in on it. He exhaled heavily. Okay. Listen carefully. Go to the city shelter on 5th and Maple. Ask for a woman named Gloria. Tell her I sent you. She'll keep you safe tonight. My breath came out in short bursts. Okay. Okay, I'll go. Tasha, he said softly, you're doing the right thing. Just hold on a little longer. I hung up and started walking, every step feeling heavier than the last. By the time I reached the shelter, the sun was beginning to rise. Gloria was waiting, like he said. A tall woman with kind eyes and a steady voice. Come in, baby, she said. You safe here. And for the first time in days, I let someone hug me without flinching. But that night, as I lay in the small cot by the window, I couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't over. Because when I closed my eyes, I saw Derek's face again, smiling that same calm smile, and I heard his voice whispering like a promise. You can run, Tasha, but you can't hide forever. By the next morning, my nerves were shot. I'd been up all night, sitting by the shelter window, staring out at the quiet street below. Every time I heard a car, I froze. Sleep wasn't possible, not with the image of Derek's face burned into my mind, that calm, patient smile that never quite reached his eyes. I knew I couldn't keep running forever. I needed proof. Something real. Something I could take to the police. So I decided to go back to the only person who'd believed me, the doctor. Dr. Miller. When I walked into his clinic again, he looked up, and for a moment, he didn't even recognize me. Tasha, he said softly, standing from behind the desk. His eyes darted to the door behind me. Where have you been? I had to leave, I whispered. You were right. He came after me. He found me at my mother's. He exhaled, rubbing his face with both hands. Lord. I was afraid of that. He locked the door and gestured for me to sit down. I didn't want to believe what I saw in those test results, he said quietly. But your blood work, it showed signs of heavy metal exposure. And your liver enzymes, Tasha, they were off the charts. My stomach turned. What does that mean? He looked me dead in the eye. It means someone's been giving you small doses of poison. Over time. The room tilted for a second. I grabbed the edge of the table to steady myself. What kind of poison? I whispered. Rat poison, he said flatly. Or something with similar compounds. I'm still waiting on the toxicology confirmation. I felt sick. Cold all over. All those nights of weakness, the nausea, the fainting spells, it wasn't stress. It wasn't anxiety. It was him. Derek had been killing me slowly. The doctor leaned in, voice trembling. You said your husband prepares your food sometimes, right? I nodded, too stunned to speak. And you mentioned you live with his mother and stepdaughter? Yes. Why? He hesitated. Because it looks deliberate. Consistent levels. Like someone's been carefully measuring it. Not enough to kill you quickly, but enough to make you sick. I could barely breathe. Images flashed in my mind, every dinner I'd eaten alone, every time Derek insisted on bringing me soup, every morning I woke up dizzy and he said it was just low sugar. I stared at the wall, whispering, he told me it was my nerves. That I was overreacting. Dr. Miller swallowed hard. That's part of it. They make you doubt yourself. But Tasha, you need to listen to me now. Do not go home. I didn't plan to, I said, but my voice was shaking. I don't know what to do. He glanced toward the window like he was watching for someone. Then he scribbled something on a notepad and slid it toward me. This is the name of a friend of mine, he said. Private investigator. I'll tell him to expect your call. I nodded, clutching the paper like a lifeline. And then, the sound of the front door chime made both of us freeze. Footsteps. I turned toward the glass panel on the door, and my blood went cold. Derek. Standing there in his grey suit, calm, polished, pretending nothing was wrong. Baby, he said through the glass, smiling, there you are. Dr. Miller's face went pale. You told me he didn't know where you were. I don't know how he found me. Derek knocked lightly. Doc, mind if I come in? My wife's been having a rough time. The doctor's voice dropped to a whisper. Do not say a word about what we discussed. Not one word. He unlocked the door, just enough to keep things from looking suspicious. Derek walked in, flashing that fake, friendly smile. There you are, he said softly, taking a step toward me. You scared me half to death running off like that. I forced a weak smile. I just needed air. He nodded, pretending to understand, but his eyes were cold. Calculating. He turned to the doctor. Thanks for taking care of her, document. I'll make sure she gets the rest she needs. Dr. Miller's voice was tight. Actually, I'd prefer to run one more test. Just to be safe. Derek's gaze hardened. She's fine. She's coming home. My heart hammered. I looked at the doctor, silently begging him to do something, anything. Then, in one fluid motion, he picked up a clipboard, wrote something quickly, and handed it to Derek. "Just sign this release form for her medication," he said. Derek took it without suspicion. As he bent over the counter, the doctor leaned toward me and whispered under his breath, so low I almost didn't catch it. "Don't go home. I mean it. Whatever happens, don't." Then he straightened up, smiling like nothing had happened. "All set," he said aloud. "Take care of yourself, Mrs. Brown. And remember to rest." I nodded, swallowing hard. When Derek put his hand on the small of my back to lead me out, I felt my whole body flinch. The second we stepped outside, he chuckled softly. "You look pale, baby. Maybe next time, don't run off like that, huh? You know how worried I get." I forced a smile, trying to sound steady. "You're right. I won't." But my mind was spinning. How did he find me here? Was he tracking my phone? Watching me somehow? I turned once to glance back through the clinic window. Dr. Miller stood there, watching us leave, his face tense, his jaw tight. And just before he turned away, he mouthed one word. "Run." That night, I didn't go home. I parked my car behind a gas station 2 towns over and just sat there, trembling. I replayed everything again in my head. The doctor's warning, the look in Derek's eyes, the way he said I belonged home. Home. That word didn't mean safety anymore. It meant danger. But something inside me, the part that needed to know, kept whispering that maybe, just maybe, I could go back once. Just to see. Just to find proof. Because if what Dr. Miller said was true, if my own husband was behind all this, then I wasn't just running from fear anymore. I was running from murder. That night, I didn't drive. I just sat there, parked behind that old gas station, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. Every sound made me jump, a truck passing by, a dog barking, even the hum of the streetlight above. It felt like the whole world was watching me breathe. The doctor's voice kept echoing in my head. "Don't go home. I mean it." But where else was I supposed to go? My mama's house wasn't safe. Derek had already found me there once. And now he knew I'd gone back to the clinic. That man moved like smoke, silent, fast, and always right behind you before you even smelled the danger. I looked at my phone. 5 missed calls. 3 voicemails. All from him. "Baby, come home. We can talk. You're scaring me, running off like that. Tasha, you know I love you, right?" His voice was smooth. Controlled. Like nothing was wrong. But beneath it, I could hear something else. That quiet warning tone he always used before things turned bad. By dawn, I'd driven to a small roadside motel on the edge of town. The kind of place where no one asks questions and the clerk barely looks up when you sign in. The air smelled like stale smoke and old carpet. But it was quiet. I sat on the edge of the bed, shaking, trying to think straight. The note. I pulled it out again, that crumpled piece of paper from my jacket pocket, the one that had started all this. "He's not who you think he is. Don't eat anything he gives you." I traced the letters with my finger, whispering the words like a prayer. Who wrote it? Who knew? And why had they risked everything to warn me? By mid-morning, my phone rang again, an unknown number this time. For a second, I almost didn't answer. But something in my gut said I should. "Hello." A man's voice came through, low and steady. "Tasha Brown?" "Yes. My name's Anthony Price. Dr. Miller said you might reach out." I froze. "You're the investigator?" "That's right," he said. "He told me what's going on. You in a safe place?" I looked around the tiny motel room. The curtains drawn. My bag by the door. Safe enough. He hesitated. "Good. Don't tell me where you are. Just listen." My throat was tight. "Okay. I ran a background check on your husband," he said slowly. "Derek Brown, born in Chicago, moved here 6 years ago. But here's the thing, his records before that. They don't line up." "What do you mean?" "I mean, his name wasn't always Derek Brown." My heart stopped. "What?" "He changed it," the man said. "Legally. Twice." I gripped the phone tighter. "To what?" Before Derek Brown, he was registered as Marcus Dale in Texas. Before that, Eric Shaw. There's no trace of either identity beyond a few tax filings and a missing person case. Missing person? I whispered. He hesitated. Yeah. His first wife. I went completely still. The air in the room turned heavy. Her name was Naomi, he said quietly. She disappeared in 2015. Never found. Her body was never recovered, but neighbors said she got sick before she vanished. Very sick. The silence stretched long enough for me to hear my own heartbeat. I whispered, so he did it before. Looks that way, Anthony said. You need to stay hidden. Don't answer his calls. Don't go near that house. But my mind wasn't hearing him anymore. All I could see was Derek's smile, that calm, easy grin that used to make me feel safe. I'd built a life around a lie. A monster in a clean suit and wedding band. Mrs. Brown, the man's voice broke through again, firmer now. Did you hear me? Yes, I breathed. I heard you. Good. Dr. Miller's already turned in the toxicology report. Once it's confirmed, the police will have enough to open an investigation. Until then, lay low. Okay. Promise me, he said. I promise. But even as I said it, my eyes drifted toward the window. Because promises don't stop obsession. And men like Derek, they always find you. That night, I didn't sleep again. Every hour or so, I thought I heard footsteps outside. The sound of gravel crunching. Once, I even saw headlights flash across the curtain, and my heart nearly exploded. I pulled the blanket tight around me, whispering to myself, he doesn't know where I am. He can't. But deep down, I didn't believe it. Because with Derek, not knowing was worse than seeing him. He could be anywhere. And that's what kept me trapped, not the walls, not the fear, but the waiting. By the next morning, I'd made up my mind. I couldn't keep hiding. I needed answers. So I called the investigator again. Anthony, I need to go back. What? Absolutely not, he said sharply. You go back there, you're walking straight into danger. I need proof, I said. Something the police can't ignore. Something they can see. He sighed. Tasha, listen to me. That man is dangerous. He's careful. If he's poisoned you this long, he's capable of more. I know, I whispered. But I can't live like this. I need to know why. Why me? Why now? He paused. Then quietly said, if you're going to do it, at least let me come with you. No, I said. If he sees anyone else with me, he'll know. He'll suspect. I'll go in daylight. Just long enough to grab something, a bottle, a container, anything that proves what he's been doing. He cursed under his breath. You're making a mistake. Maybe, I said. But it's mine to make. I packed my bag, threw on my hoodie, and took a deep breath. The world outside looked normal, people jogging, kids riding bikes, life going on like it didn't just fall apart for me. But inside, I was all adrenaline. Every nerve awake. Every breath heavy. As I started the car, my hands trembled. Because this wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about truth. And if I was going to bring Derek down, I had to walk straight through the nightmare he built. As I pulled onto the highway, my phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. I almost ignored it, until I saw the message. Come home, Tasha. Let's talk. Dinner's waiting. I stared at it, my stomach twisting. Dinner. That one word told me everything I needed to know. He wasn't sorry. He wasn't scared. He was waiting. And he thought I'd come back like I always did. But this time, he had no idea what was coming. By the time I pulled into the driveway, the sun had already gone down. The porch light was on, but something about it felt wrong, too bright, too deliberate, like someone had turned it on just for me. I sat there in the car for a long minute, staring at the front door. It was the same white door I'd walked through 100 times before, but tonight, it looked like a mouth waiting to swallow me whole. I told myself I'd just go in, grab what I needed, and leave. But deep down, I knew it wouldn't be that simple. It never was with Derek. The key felt cold in my hand. I slipped it into the lock and turned it slow, hoping he wouldn't hear. The door creaked open, and a wave of silence hit me, not the usual kind, either. No TV playing in the background. No sound of dishes or music from the living room. Just stillness. The air smelled different too, heavier. Metallic, maybe. Like something had been burned. I stepped inside, my shoes barely touching the floor. Everything was too neat. Too clean. The dinner table was already set. Plates, forks, 2 glasses, candles unlit. And in the middle of it all, a bowl of soup, steaming gently. Waiting. Baby. His voice came from the kitchen. I froze. It was calm. Too calm. He stepped into view, wearing that same soft smile, the one that used to melt me before I knew better. There you are, he said. You had me worried. I forced a shaky smile. I'm fine. Doctor say you okay? Yeah, I lied. Just stress. He nodded slowly, studying me like he was reading between the lines. Then he motioned to the table. I made your favorite. Chicken soup. You should eat before it gets cold. My throat went dry. Chicken soup, the same thing he used to make whenever I felt sick. He stepped closer. Sit down, Tasha. You look tired. I hesitated, pretending to fumble with my purse. Inside, my phone camera was already recording, screen down, mic open. I sat at the table, spoon in hand, trying to act normal. The steam rose up and hit my face, carrying that same strange, bitter smell I'd noticed before. He watched me carefully, like he always did when he wanted control. Go on, he said softly. Eat. I lifted the spoon to my lips, pretending to take a sip, but I didn't swallow. The taste hit my tongue anyway, sharp, metallic, wrong. I coughed lightly, setting the spoon down. Too hot, I murmured. He smiled faintly. That's all right. It'll cool. The air between us thickened. Every tick of the clock sounded louder, stretching time itself. I could feel my heart pounding so hard it hurt. He leaned forward. You've been acting strange lately. I blinked. Strange how? You don't answer my calls. You disappear for hours. You think I don't notice? I just needed space, I said, my voice shaking. Space from what? His tone dropped lower. From me. I looked away. You've been different, Derek. He laughed softly, but it wasn't amusement. It was something darker. I've been different. Baby, you're the one who's losing your mind. You're paranoid. Forgetful. The doctor said it himself, didn't he? I swallowed hard. He said I was stressed. Exactly. He leaned back, arms folded. So why all the secrets? Why the recording in your purse? My blood turned cold. He knew. I froze, unable to breathe. His eyes flicked toward the table. Go ahead. Take it out. I reached into my bag, pulling out the phone. The red light blinked faintly on the screen. He smirked. You think you can catch me saying something? You think I'm stupid? I tried to stand, but he slammed his hand on the table so hard the bowl rattled. Sit down, he barked. I flinched. The old Derek was gone now, the calm mask slipping to reveal the man underneath. His face twisted, his voice low and trembling with anger. You don't get to make me look like the bad guy, he hissed. After everything I've done for you. Done for me. I shot back. You've been poisoning me. He laughed, loud, harsh, echoing through the house. Poisoning you? Lord, listen to yourself. You sound insane. But his eyes, they told a different story. For a second, neither of us moved. Then I saw it, a small bottle tucked behind the candle, half hidden. The same shape as the one I'd found in the kitchen weeks ago. I looked straight at it. And that's when his smile vanished. He followed my gaze, realized what I'd seen, and whispered, you weren't supposed to see that. I ran. Didn't think, didn't grab anything, just ran. My feet barely touched the floor as I sprinted down the hallway, my heart screaming louder than my voice could. Behind me, I heard him shout, Tasha. Then footsteps, fast, heavy, closing in. I turned into the hallway, reaching for the bathroom door. He grabbed my arm, yanking me back hard enough to make me stumble. "Stop fighting me," he growled. "Let me go," I screamed, clawing at his hand. We crashed into the wall, picture frames shattering around us. He was stronger, always had been, but I was desperate. I drove my knee into his stomach, just enough to make him grunt and loosen his grip. I bolted again, slammed the bathroom door shut, locked it, and pressed my back against it. My hands were shaking as I pulled out my phone. I dialed 911. 911, "What's your emergency?" "My husband. He's trying to hurt me. Please, I'm at 347 Pine." A loud bang cut through my words. He was kicking the door. Stay on the line," the operator said. "Officers are en route." "He's coming," I cried. "Please, hurry." The banging grew louder, the hinges starting to bend. I could hear him shouting now, words tangled in fury. "Tasha, you don't understand. I was just trying to help you. You're sick." I pressed myself against the far wall, tears streaming down my face. The door splintered once, twice, and then, silence. The sudden quiet was worse than the noise. It stretched long enough that I thought maybe, just maybe, he'd given up. Then I heard it. The back door creaking open. He wasn't gone. He was circling. I covered my mouth, holding my breath as footsteps moved outside the window. The sound of sirens faintly echoed in the distance, far, but getting closer. The operator said, "Police are almost there. Stay hidden." I clutched the phone, whispering, "Please, please, please." The footsteps stopped right outside the bathroom window. For one terrifying moment, I saw his shadow fall across the curtain. Then, headlights flashed across the yard. Blue and red. Sirens screamed closer. The shadow disappeared. When the officers burst in minutes later, I was still curled up on the floor, shaking, barely able to speak. They found him outside, trying to run through the back gate. It was over. Or at least, I wanted to believe it was. But as they led him away in handcuffs, he turned his head toward me and whispered something only I could hear. "You'll regret this." And the way he smiled when he said it. I knew it wasn't over. Not yet. I didn't sleep that night. Even after the police took Derek away, even after they told me it was safe. I just sat there on the couch, shaking, wrapped in the same blanket I'd had since college. The house felt like a stranger's place now. Walls that used to protect me felt like they'd been watching all along. Every shadow looked like him. Every creak in the floor sounded like his footsteps. When the officer finally left, promising someone would be in touch, I walked through that empty house like I was moving through someone else's nightmare. I needed answers. I needed proof. Morning light crept through the curtains, pale and heavy. My hands were trembling as I made myself a cup of coffee. The smell, bitter, sharp, made my stomach turn. I hadn't eaten since yesterday, but I wasn't hungry. All I could think about was that bottle I saw on the table, that tiny, unmarked thing Derek tried to hide. The police hadn't found it. At least, not yet. So I decided I would. The kitchen felt colder than before. Everything was still exactly where it had been. The dishes neatly stacked, the counters wiped clean, no trace of the chaos from last night. But I knew Derek. He was careful, too careful. If he'd been poisoning me, he wouldn't leave evidence lying around. He'd tuck it away somewhere quiet. Somewhere ordinary. I started with the cabinets. One by one, I opened them. Cereal boxes, canned beans, sugar, flour. Nothing. Then I looked up at the spice rack. Every jar perfectly labeled, alphabetized, paprika, rosemary, thyme. But something about the sugar jar caught my eye. It wasn't full. Derek hated running low on anything. I pulled it down, my fingers trembling. The lid came off easy, too easy. And there it was. A small brown bottle, unmarked, with a faint white powder clinging to its edges. The smell hit me first, sharp and chemical, like metal mixed with bleach. I gagged, covering my mouth, tears blurring my vision. My knees went weak. That's when it hit me. All those nights of dizziness. The headaches. The metallic taste that wouldn't go away. It wasn't stress. It wasn't in my head. It was him. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might crack open my ribs. I clutched the counter, gasping, trying to stay upright. And then, I heard it. The front door creaked open. I froze. The cops said they'd keep him overnight. How could he? A familiar voice cut through the silence. Low. Calm. Too calm. You shouldn't be here, Tasha. My stomach dropped. Derek. I turned slowly, the bottle still clutched in my hand. He stood in the doorway, hair messy, one sleeve torn, but that same cold smile on his face. Jail didn't last long, he said quietly. Turns out, they don't hold innocent men for long. I took a step back. You need to leave. I live here, he said, stepping forward. You're the one who doesn't belong. I backed up until I hit the counter. His eyes followed the bottle in my hand. What's that? He asked softly. You tell me, I snapped. You were hiding it. He laughed under his breath. You really think you're some kind of detective now? His tone changed, that slow, deliberate one he used when he wanted me scared. You think you can destroy everything we built over a little misunderstanding? Misunderstanding? I whispered. You tried to kill me. He sighed, almost annoyed. You're so dramatic. My pulse thudded in my ears. I went to the doctor, I said. He ran tests. He found toxins, poison, Derek. You were killing me. His jaw tightened. For a second, I saw it, the flicker of guilt, or maybe just the truth slipping out. Then it was gone. He smiled again. You should have minded your business. Before I could react, he lunged. His hand clamped over mine, trying to grab the bottle. We struggled, slamming into the wall, knocking down spices and glass. The bottle flew from my hand, rolling across the floor, spilling a little powder. He froze. I froze. That smell, that bitter, metallic sting, filled the room again. We both stared at it. Then he whispered, almost proud, see? That's what made you weak. My stomach turned. You poisoned me. He tilted his head. I needed control, Tasha. You stopped listening. You started doubting me. You're sick, I breathed. No, he said softly, I'm careful. I reached for the nearest thing I could, the kettle, and threw it at him. It hit the counter, splashing hot water across his arm. He screamed, jerking back. I darted for the hallway, but he grabbed my wrist, twisting it so hard I cried out. Stop it. I yelled. You're hurting me. Stop fighting me, he shouted back. You brought this on yourself. I kicked him again, harder this time, and he stumbled backward, hitting the fridge. The bottle lay between us on the floor, powder scattered around it like ash. The world narrowed to just that one moment. My hand on the counter. His glare. The smell of chemicals in the air. And then, a sound I'll never forget. The front door burst open. Police. Drop it. Derek froze. 2 officers rushed in, weapons drawn. He lifted his hands slowly, eyes never leaving mine. You called them again, didn't you? He hissed. I didn't answer. I couldn't. They tackled him to the ground, cuffed him, dragged him out screaming my name. And as they took him away, that same smile crept back onto his face. You'll regret this, he whispered again. The house fell silent once more. I sank to the floor, shaking, staring at the scattered powder. My body felt hollow. My mind, numb. For a long time, I just sat there, letting the truth sink in. All those years I thought I was safe, loved, protected, and all along, I was living with a man who was quietly taking me apart piece by piece. And if it weren't for that doctor, I wouldn't be here to tell this story. I picked up the phone and called the officer's number. They told me they'd be sending someone to collect the evidence, and that the doctor would meet me at the hospital again. My eyes fell back on the bottle. Such a small thing. So harmless looking. But it held my life inside it. And that's when the tears finally came. Not because I was scared anymore, but because I realized what I'd survived. That night, as they sealed the bottle into a bag and drove away with it, I stood by the window, watching the siren lights fade into the distance. The house was quiet again. But this time, the silence felt different. Not like a threat. Like peace. Still, I couldn't help whispering to myself, one final truth I knew deep down. It wasn't over yet. Because monsters like Derek, they don't just disappear. It had been 3 days since they took Derek away again. 3 long, heavy days that crawled like winter nights. The house was too quiet now, too clean, too still. I'd open my eyes in the middle of the night and expect to hear his footsteps, that low hum he made while pretending to fix something that wasn't broken. But there was nothing. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the echo of my own breath. You'd think that kind of silence would bring peace. But it didn't. It brought questions. The detective called me that morning. Said they had the lab results. The powder in that bottle, it wasn't sugar, or flour, or any kitchen thing. It was ethylene glycol. Antifreeze. The same chemical that had been showing up in my blood tests all those months. I hung up the phone, my throat so dry I could barely swallow. He'd been poisoning me with car fluid. Right there in my own home. Slowly. Quietly. And somehow, I'd still missed the signs. I walked through each room, one by one, like I was seeing my life through someone else's eyes. The wedding photo on the hallway wall. The faint mark on the floor where the coffee table used to sit before he smashed it during one of his bad days. The mirror that still had a tiny crack in it from when I once slammed my hand too hard trying to calm myself down. All of it told a story I had refused to read. And I couldn't stop thinking, if I hadn't gone to that doctor, if I hadn't kept those test results, I'd be gone. By afternoon, I got another call. This time from the hospital. They said Derek wanted to see me. He was being evaluated before the court hearing and had requested a conversation. I almost laughed. A conversation? After everything? But something in me, that quiet, steady part that had been buried under all the fear, told me I needed to look him in the eye one last time. Not to forgive him, but to take back what he'd stolen from me, my voice. The hospital smelled like bleach and sadness. You could feel it the second you walked in, that heavy, sterile air that made every sound echo. The nurse led me to a small observation room. 1 glass wall, 1 table, 2 chairs. And on the other side of that glass, Derek sat there. Same calm expression. Same folded hands. Only now, there were bruises along his wrist where the cuffs had rubbed him raw. He looked up when I walked in, and smiled. Like nothing had happened. "Hey, sweetheart," he said softly. "You look tired." I sat down across from him, keeping my hands folded in my lap. "I'm not your sweetheart," I said. His smile didn't move. "You always say that when you're angry, you'll cool off." "I'm not angry," I said. "I'm awake." That made him pause. Just for a second. Then he chuckled, that low, mocking sound I used to mistake for charm. "You think you've won something here," he said. "You think locking me up makes you free?" I didn't answer. I let him talk. He leaned forward, voice dropping low. "You don't understand how much I loved you, Tasha. Everything I did to protect what we had. By poisoning me." His eyes flickered, a flash of annoyance breaking through. "You were slipping away. You stopped trusting me. I just needed you to stay still for a while, to stop running your mouth, to remember who we were." My throat burned. "You tried to kill me because I stopped being afraid of you." He looked right at me, and for the first time, I saw it, the emptiness behind his eyes. No guilt. No shame. Just control. "You think you're safe now," he whispered. "You'll never be safe, not without me. You don't even know how to exist without someone holding you together." I leaned closer, my voice steady. "You're wrong. The moment you put that poison in my body, you stopped being the one who held me together. You became the reason I had to rebuild." He smirked, leaning back in his chair. "You'll miss me." "No," I said quietly. "I'll recover from you." For the first time, that wiped the smile off his face. He blinked, once, twice, like he couldn't believe I'd said it. Then he laughed again, that strange, hollow sound. "You always had a mouth on you. Guess you finally learned to use it." The guard opened the door, signaling our time was up. But before I stood, Derek leaned forward one last time. "Remember," he said, voice low, eyes locked on mine, "I'm the only one who ever really knew you. Without me, you're nothing but noise. I stood up slowly. And I smiled. You're wrong again, I said. Without you, I'm alive. Then I turned and walked out. Didn't look back. Outside, the air felt new. Cold, sharp, alive. For the first time in months, my lungs filled all the way. The sky was bruised purple with sunset, the kind of color that always made me stop, even back when life was simple. The nurse caught up with me near the door. You okay, she asked gently. I nodded. Yeah. I think I finally She gave me a small, knowing smile. Most women don't come out of things like that with their head high. You should be proud. I swallowed hard. I'm just grateful I still get to breathe. That night, I went home and packed. Not because I was scared, but because that house would never be my home again. I left the wedding photo on the wall, the cracked mirror in the hallway, the couch that still smelled like his cologne. I didn't need to erase what happened. I needed to leave it behind. As I locked the door, I whispered a quiet promise to myself. This would be the last time I ever let someone else decide if I was worth saving. When I got to my sister's house, she opened the door and pulled me into her arms without a word. For the first time in forever, I didn't feel like a victim. I felt like someone who survived. We sat together on her porch, the night breeze soft against our faces. And I told her everything, from the headaches to the hidden bottle to the way I finally told him goodbye. When I finished, she looked at me, tears in her eyes. Tasha, she said softly, you didn't just survive him. You outlived him. I smiled, a small, tired smile. Yeah, I whispered. And I'm just getting started. The stars came out one by one, quiet witnesses to everything that had broken and healed inside me. And for the first time in years, the silence around me didn't feel empty. It felt safe. It felt mine. The next morning, the world felt heavy but clearer. I woke up on my sister's couch with sunlight pressing through the blinds, soft and golden, like it was trying to remind me that I was still here. Alive. For the first time in months, there was no bitter taste in my mouth. No pounding behind my eyes. Just a dull ache in my chest, the kind that comes after crying too hard for too many nights. My sister, Denise, was in the kitchen humming to herself, the smell of coffee drifting through the air. When she saw me sit up, she smiled, that big sister smile that always felt like a warm blanket. Morning, baby girl, she said. You hungry? I shook my head. Not yet. Just tired. She nodded, sliding a cup of coffee toward me. Well, you got every right to be. After what you've been through. Lord knows, it's a miracle you still standing. I stared into the cup for a long time. The steam rising off it twisted and curled like the thoughts running through my mind. And then I said, they called me last night. The hospital wants me to come in today. The doctor, he needs to see me. Denise frowned. You sure you ready for that? No, I whispered. But I need to know everything. The ride to the hospital was quiet. Every turn of the car brought back flashes, the doctor's trembling hands, the note he slipped into my papers, the fear in his eyes when Derek showed up at that clinic. By the time we pulled into the parking lot, my palms were sweating. Denise reached over and squeezed my hand. You don't owe him anything, Tasha. You just go in there, hear what you need to, and then you let it go. I nodded, though I wasn't sure I could. When I walked into the doctor's office, he was already waiting for me. Same white coat. Same tired eyes. Only now, there was no pretense of routine professionalism, just sorrow and quiet relief. He stood up when I entered. Tasha, he said softly, I'm glad you came. I sat down, clutching my purse like it was my anchor. You said you had something to tell me. He exhaled slowly, running a hand through his graying hair. I've been a doctor for over 20 years, he began. I've seen things most people wouldn't believe. But I've never seen something as deliberate as what was happening to you. My chest tightened. You mean, the poison? He nodded. The tests confirmed it. Your blood showed consistent traces of ethylene glycol. It's a type of antifreeze compound, colorless, sweet-tasting, deadly in small doses. The symptoms mimic illness, nausea, fatigue, confusion. It builds up over time. That's why it took so long for the signs to show. My breath caught in my throat. So, all those times I thought I was crazy. You weren't, he said firmly. You were being poisoned. Slowly. Carefully. I felt the room tilt, just slightly. The walls seemed to close in, the air thick with something I couldn't name. He continued, his voice low. When you came in that day, I saw the levels in your blood and I knew something wasn't right. The way your husband answered my questions, he was too controlled, too quick. I had to act fast. That's why I wrote the note. I blinked back tears. You saved my life. He shook his head. You saved your own, Tasha. You trusted your instincts and got out. Most people, they don't make it that far. His words broke something open inside me. All those nights I'd questioned my own mind, wondering if I was just tired or emotional, it had all been real. Every dizzy spell, every strange taste, every time I woke up gasping, it was all part of their plan. I buried my face in my hands. My husband. My own family. They wanted me dead. The doctor's voice softened. I can't tell you why they did it, but I can tell you this, they can't hurt you now. The police have everything they need. The evidence is overwhelming. The lab confirmed that same compound was found in the food samples you brought in. I wiped my tears and looked at him. What happens next? They'll be charged, he said. Attempted murder. And you'll need time to heal, physically and emotionally. He hesitated for a moment, then added, Tasha, you're a strong woman. But what you've been through, it leaves marks, even the kind no one can see. I nodded slowly. I know. When I stepped out of that office, the world looked different. The sunlight felt too bright, the wind too sharp against my skin. Denise was waiting near the entrance. She took one look at my face and didn't ask a single question. Just pulled me into her arms and held me tight. I whispered against her shoulder, it was poison. He really did it. She exhaled shakily. Oh, baby. We stood there for a long time, two sisters holding each other in the middle of a hospital parking lot, both crying for the girl who almost didn't make it and the woman who finally did. Later that night, I sat alone by the window, looking out at the quiet street below. The city lights shimmered against the glass, soft and distant. My body still ached from the months of toxins, but the ache in my soul was heavier. I thought about every red flag I'd ignored, the way Derek would joke about my insurance policy, the way he'd always insist on cooking my meals himself, the way his mother's smile never reached her eyes. I'd mistaken control for care, and love for possession. But not anymore. The phone rang, and for a moment, my heart jumped, an old reflex. But it was just the detective again. He said, they've been processed. Both of them, your husband and his mother. They won't be seeing daylight for a long time. I closed my eyes, a single tear slipping down my cheek. Thank you, I whispered. For believing me. He paused. You're the one who survived, You believed yourself first. That's what saved you. When I hung up, I sat in silence, the words echoing in my mind. You believed yourself first. That was the truth I hadn't known I was searching for. Outside, the moon hung high, pale and patient. And in its quiet light, I whispered something only it could hear. I'm still here. And that's enough. For the first time in what felt like forever, I meant it. It's been 3 months since that night. The night I found out the man I married was slowly killing me. And every morning since, I've woken up wondering how I didn't see it sooner. Some mornings I open my eyes to the quiet hum of my sister's house, the smell of fresh coffee, the sound of her kids getting ready for school. Other mornings, it's harder. The nightmares still come, soft footsteps behind me, the clink of dishes, the taste of metal on my tongue. But when the fear tries to rise again, I remind myself, he can't touch me anymore. I started therapy a month after the trial. My counselor, Dr. Evans, is this gentle woman with kind eyes who never rushes me. She said, you've lived too long in survival mode, Tasha. It's okay to rest now. Rest. That word used to sound like weakness. Now it feels like freedom. Sometimes I sit on the porch after sunset, a blanket around my shoulders, and talk to God like he's sitting right next to me. Not begging. Not questioning. Just talking. I tell him about the anger that still burns low in my chest. About the guilt that creeps in when I remember Derek's smile, the smile I once loved. And about the strange relief that came the day I stopped pretending everything was okay. The day they sentenced Derek and his mother, I didn't go to court. I couldn't. Denise went for me. When she came back, she just said, "It's over. 25 years, no parole." I nodded. No tears. Just silence. Because nothing about it felt like victory. It just felt like the end of a nightmare. The reporters tried to reach out, wanted interviews, headlines, stories about the poisoned wife who survived. I turned them all down. They didn't need my pain for their ratings. This story, it's mine. One night, I was washing dishes when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. For a second my stomach flipped, the way it used to when Derek texted me late at night. But it was just a message from Detective Lowe. "Lab confirmed full recovery in your latest tests. You're clear, Ms. Henderson." Clear. That word hit me like sunlight through a window. I stared at it for a long moment, then whispered, "Thank you." Not to him, just to the universe. Later that evening, I sat in the quiet living room, scrolling through old photos on my phone. There was one of Derek holding me at my birthday dinner, candles glowing, his arm around me like a promise. I zoomed in on his face, on that soft smile. And I saw it now, what I couldn't see then, that emptiness in his eyes. The way he looked at me like I was something temporary. I whispered, I should have seen it. But that's the cruel part about betrayal. It always hides behind love. I remember the first time I felt that dizziness. He'd made my favorite dish, lemon pepper salmon. I took 2 bites and felt lightheaded. He laughed and said, "See, that's what happens when you skip breakfast." And I laughed too. Because when you love someone, you believe them. Even when your body is begging you not to. Dr. Evans asked me last week, if you could say one thing to the woman you were back then, what would it be? I thought about it for a long time. Then I said, I'd tell her to stop apologizing for existing. To trust the chill that runs up her spine. To stop calling her fear overthinking. She smiled. "That's growth," she said. "Maybe it is. But it's also grief. Because for every sign I ignored, there's a scar now. And scars, they don't disappear. They just remind you of the fire you walked through." Denise still worries about me. Every time I stay out too late, she calls. "You sure you okay, baby girl?" And I tell her, yeah, I'm good. Sometimes it's true. Sometimes it's not. But she never pushes. She just says, okay. You know where home is. That kind of love, steady, quiet, patient, it heals parts of you that doctors can't. One evening, her little boy, Caleb, asked me, "Aunt Tasha, are you still sick?" I knelt down beside him. "No, baby. I'm not sick anymore." He frowned, thinking. "Then why you still look sad sometimes?" I smiled and brushed his curls back. Because sometimes grown-ups' hearts get bruised, and bruises take time to fade. He nodded like he understood every word. Then he hugged me so tight I almost cried right there on the kitchen floor. The next morning, I opened my journal, the one Dr. Evans told me to start, and I wrote the truth for the first time without shaking. He tried to kill me. But he didn't win. I lived. And under that, I added, living is not just breathing. It's choosing to stay when the world tries to erase you. I didn't realize how much I needed to write those words until they were staring back at me. Every letter felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. That weekend, Denise talked me into going to the farmer's market. Sunshine, crowds, laughter, it all felt strange at first. But as we walked between stalls, a little girl handed me a sunflower, grinning from ear to ear. "Here. You look like you need this." I laughed, surprised. "Thank you, sweetheart." Her mother smiled. She said your eyes looked sad. I looked at that child again, so innocent and bold, and said, they were. But not today. Later that night, back home, I placed that sunflower in a mason jar on the table beside my bed. Its petals were wide open, yellow and alive. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't see the past when I looked at it. I saw tomorrow. I'm not naive anymore. I know evil doesn't always wear a mask. Sometimes it sits across the table, smiling, asking how your day was. But I also know this. Strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, get up. Keep going. So if you're listening to this right now, if you ever felt like something in your home, your heart, your life just ain't right, listen to that feeling. You don't owe anyone your silence. You don't owe anyone your suffering. Because sometimes survival isn't about running. Sometimes it's just about refusing to die quietly. I still keep the doctor's note. It's folded in the back of my journal, edges worn soft from how many times I've held it. Those 5 words saved my life. Don't go home. Run. But these days, I look at it differently. Not as a warning. As a promise. A promise that I'll never ignore my own voice again. That I'll never let fear be louder than truth. And when the night gets quiet, when the world slows down and I can almost hear the ghosts of that old house whispering through my memory, I smile to myself and whisper back, I heard you the first time. And I ran. Then I close my eyes. And finally sleep in peace.